Hey brother! Ben, one of the coolest aspects of the Avatar is how they are able to communicate with their past lives. It's just so cool seeing the different forms they took and the conflicts they had to deal with and how those conflicts are still affecting the present day and all the sage wisdom they can offer. Which is why one of the biggest points of contention that arose from Legend of Korra happens right here, when the Avatar spirit is beaten up so badly that it permanently severs the Avatar's connection to their past lives. All of that history, that wisdom, that insight is just gone. This does not get fixed. And it is truly something fans have been clamoring to just have undone in some way ever since it happened, because it is such a cool and important aspect of the Avatar. Not to mention, it is just such a tease because earlier in Korra, you get to see this just giant lineup of past Avatars. And of course, all you want to do is just know all of their stories or just some of their stories, but then no, poof, gone. And in particular, this is such a big blow when you're watching Legend of Korra because it means you're definitely not gonna get to see Aang anymore, and Aang is probably the reason you're into the show at all. But I have good news for you guys. I've been diving deep into how the Avatar communicates with their past lives, and I think there is still hope. Okay, there is no doubt that how the Avatar communicates with their past life is confusing because the rules seem to just be all over the place and just completely thrown out of the window at some points. For example, during the two-parter winter solstice episodes that pretty much set up the plot for the whole show, you know, that the comet is coming and the clock is ticking, so hurry up! Aang is instructed by Roku's dragon that Roku wants to talk to him, but in order to do so, Aang will have to go on a dangerous journey into the Fire Nation, get inside of a locked room inside of a guarded temple at a specific time on a specific day, and if he does, they can talk for about 10 minutes. That is a razor thin window of opportunity. The difficulty and the danger is super high, but the information is vital. And that's what makes it worth it, because here's the thing about Roku is he's the man with all the answers. Aang has barely even known about the war for a week. He's hardly accepted his new role as the Avatar. And since he's been away for 100 years, there really aren't that many people who can even tell him what it means to be the Avatar or what the scope of his powers are. But Roku is that guy. He knows everything, like why the war started, who started it, what Aang is capable of, etc. So yeah, if Aang had just unlimited access to Roku, it would resolve a lot of conflict very quickly and halt a lot of character development. So certainly from at least a writing perspective, it makes sense that Aang only ever gets really limited access to Roku, and that in order to get that access, it normally comes with a really high cost or risk. This allows for Roku to show up and give Aang important information that he needs, but not with ever enough time to ever really tell him how to do anything. And those are the rules. It's established nice and early. This is how it works. Or so you think. Because then there's this moment where Aang is just struggling in the water, and out of nowhere, Roku just shows up in the sky to deliver a little pep talk. Just like that. Wish someone would show up in the sky and give me a little pep talk just like that sometimes. You're doing great. Thanks. Aang handles this really well. He ends up totally rallying and surfing away with renewed spirits. But personally, if it was me, I think I would be more like, hey, if you're gonna show up like this, why did we risk our lives at the temple a few months ago? Also, could you maybe show me some fire bending techniques? And do you know any good places to hide in the Fire Nation since you're from here? Also, are there any geographical advantages we could take advantage of? Side note, still me here. Guru Patak said I had to let go of all earthly attachments, including Katara, but then you were a married person and you could still enter the Avatar state, so how does that work? Also, still talking, why do all the other Avatars appear in their prime, but you're an old man? Will I get to choose when I die? Question of the day, if you were coming back as an Avatar ghost, how old would you be? Would you be in your prime or old man Roku? Personally, I would definitely come back as anything but this point in my life where I was wearing this shirt. little colonels know what I'm talking about. But do you see the problem? Like, if Roku can just appear like this, then why doesn't he just appear like this whenever he needs to tell Aang something? Like, what are the rules here? Why is it that sometimes Aang can just summon the spirit from within inside himself, and sometimes he has to be at a certain spot at a certain time? Why can sometimes the avatar literally re-manifest themselves through your body, but then other times they can physically interact with you and repair your bending? Well, I have now gone through every instance in both shows where a past avatar shows up to talk to the present avatar, and I think I get it. Basically, the main source of confusion, I think, is that there are actually two different ways in which the avatar can communicate with their past lives, and both ways have to do with the avatar's unique relationship with the spirit world. Throughout the series, we see instances of incredibly spiritual characters being able to continue an existence post-mortem in the spirit world. In fact, one of the show's creators, Brian Canizzo, says on the DVD commentary for A New Spiritual Age, the spirit world is not primarily an afterlife. However, humans who were naturally imbued with spiritual energy or developed a strong connection to the spirit world during their lifetimes can transcend the mortal plane following their death and embody some form of energy in the spirit realm. Humans who become spirits through this process become more like an essence with the passage of time, as memories of their corporeal forms become less prominent. This accounts for why the Painted Lady appears ghost-like, whereas Iroh still largely resembles his human form. Hey, the Painted Lady, we just made a video about her. Video by clicking the card. Either way, the important takeaway here is that although these are guidelines for any particularly spiritual person, the fact is that the avatar is the bridge between the physical and the spirit world, meaning that literally every avatar qualifies for this. They all have a deep connection to the spirit world. Every dead avatar exists in some shape or form in the spirit world, but the longer they've been gone, the less human they have become and the more just essence they are. But as spirits, they are still capable of traveling to the physical world through certain passages. Now, Korra eventually reopens the spirit gates, making passage between the two worlds super easy, but while Aang is alive, that's not the case. And the only time when spirits can really cross over is during specific times, solstices being the key one. So during the winter and summer solstices, the spirit and physical world are closer together than usual, so passage between the two is easier. But it also seems like the location is specifically relevant to crossing over as well. This is method one for avatars communicating with their past selves, and the trick Roku is using during the winter solstice to tell Aang about the comet, and later the summer solstice to tell Aang about the history between himself and Fire Lord Sozin. And in this situation, using this method, Aang is literally communicating with Roku's transcended soul into the spirit world. Like, it's a whole second being, which will come into play in a second. It is in this form where Roku appears as a whole second spirit that he is actually able to take control of Aang's body and reassume his old powers. A similar situation actually happens with Avatar Kyoshi on Avatar Day, when she also takes over Aang's body to confess to her crimes. That one isn't actually taking place on a solstice, but again, the time and place seem to matter because it is taking place on the anniversary of the day in question, and Aang is wearing all of her old clothes. And I think it's worth noting that in both of these situations, using this method, the old avatars are re-entering the physical world from the spirit world, but Aang could actually do the same thing in reverse, meaning he could also communicate with them by traveling into the spirit world himself. We actually see this very thing occur during the Siege of the North when Aang finds Roku. And you might think, well, geez, now that he's figured this trick out, he would probably just start doing it all the time. But no, because remember, this is Aang's first time actually visiting the spirit world as opposed to just projecting his spirit into the physical world. And he's only really able to accomplish this by meditating at a very spiritual location, which I just have to say is another great example of the writers totally hamstringing Aang with his lack of training and the time constraints around learning this particular skill. Because we actually know from other characters like Zahir or Jinora that once you master this, you can pretty much enter the spirit world from anywhere. This, I think, is also the method being employed when Roku snags Aang out of the air to tell him about how the avatar state works. True, Aang's not at a particular spiritual place or meditating, but, well, he is in the avatar state, which Roku explains.
The glow is the combination of all your past lives, focusing the energy through your body.
So yeah, to me it makes sense that Roku has access to Aang in this situation. But okay, so then that still leaves us with the situation where Roku just appears out of nowhere in the sky while Aang is in the water during a point where Aang can actually literally not enter the Avatar state anymore. So what is happening here? Well, this, unbeknownst to Aang, or us at the time, is actually method number 2, which has to do with Raava, the spirit of light and purity that is permanently fused with the Avatar. In Legend of Korra, we actually learn how the very first Avatar, Avatar 1, came to be, and how he and Raava permanently fused together during what is known as harmonic convergence. The two became one, they closed the spirit portals on the north and south poles, and literally became the bridge between the two worlds, being part human and part spirit. It is because of this that when Wan finally dies, we see Raava's spirit dissipate out of him and immediately get reborn into the next Avatar in the cycle. So different human person, same Raava spirit. Which is important because Raava carries with her an imprint of every Avatar she has shared a body with, which can be accessed by the current Avatar if they know how. This is the skill we see Aang finally learning during Sozin's comment when he's on the lion turtle and he's projecting various imprints from Raava out into the open. Roku even tells him,
"You're right, Aang. All the past avatars, all their experience and wisdom is available to you if you look deep inside yourself."
The way he phrases that makes it feel like this is the first time Aang has ever really tried this skill or even wondered if it's possible. I mean, not that Roku doesn't hint very early on that Aang has this ability.
What if I have questions? How will I talk to you?
I am a part of you. When you need to talk to me again, you will find a way.
But it also confirms to me that this is a different way of communicating than the other encounters, except maybe that time he appeared in the sky while Aang was in the ocean. Worth noting, I think, that once more Aang is assisted by being at a very spiritual location, and writing-wise, he only manages to master the skill just moments before the final battle happens anyway, so even though he suddenly has access to anyone anytime he wants, there's not much time before he has to do the thing. Not to worry though, because method 2 is basically the main way Korra will interact with her past lives, but honestly, she's not very good at it. Pretty much all of her experiences in this realm happen during her first season, and almost always while she's in the process of passing out and starts having flashbacks of Aang's memories. It's as if Aang's imprint within Raava is reaching out during times when Korra is at her least guarded to try and help her solve the mystery of Amon. This actually happens 3 times before Korra is able to finally meditate herself into the memories. Aang doesn't physically appear to guide her in the same way that Roku appeared to guide him, but she does at least get what she needs. But of course, the big interaction Korra has with her past lives is at the end of season 1 when Aang and all the rest of them show up to return her bending to her. Which at first felt like a whole brand new kind of interaction that didn't fit into method 1 or 2. Because previously, the spirits had not been able to bend at all unless they took over the current avatar's body. And they certainly couldn't physically interact with anything else in their surroundings. But I think somewhat beautifully, this is a representation of both methods happening at once. Aang says,
"You called me here. You have finally connected with your spiritual self.
How?
When we hit our lowest point, we are open to the greatest change."
First of all, I think this finally answers Roku appearing in the ocean. Aang is almost definitely referencing that exact moment when he too was at his lowest point and open to the greatest change and activated this same power inadvertently. But second of all, connecting with your spiritual self sounds like he's referring to Raava. And when he says Korra called him there, it sounds a lot like how Aang was calling the imprints from Raava out on the lion turtle. And yet, Aang can also interact with her almost as if they're both in the spirit world and she's dealing with his transcended soul. But we can also see that they are very clearly just still in the physical world. Further reinforcing this idea is the fact that every single other avatar is there as well. all of their transcendent souls are present at once. So I think what's really happening here is that simultaneously Korra is projecting out the different imprints from Raava, but then also their transcended selves are joining with those imprints in like some sort of peaceful intersection of powers, like an almost like harmonic convergence. Hey. Anyway, the good news is, getting back to our original concern about the Avatar no longer being able to connect with their past lives, is that Raava getting beat up means that only one of these methods, the second method, has actually been eliminated. In theory, the Avatar should still be able to connect with their past lives who exist in the spirit world. I mean, heck, in the same exact episode where Raava gets all beat up, Aang actually does appear in the spirit world to save Tenzin from the mist. That is not Raava Aang, who only Korra would have access to. That is spirit world Aang. He's right there. He still exists. So Korra should still be able to access Aang in this way if she can just figure it out. But of course, there's not really anyone there to tell her how to do it. I mean, Roku was the one who told Aang. That said, the show does end with Korra and Asami entering the spirit world, so I have hopes that they do eventually figure it out. And also, just to round things off here, the second method isn't completely gone. Future avatars should still be able to use it. They'll just only be able to go back to Korra or any other avatar since Korra. And so in that sense, all is not entirely lost because Korra herself at least knows the entire history of Wan, the first avatar. And that is it. That is how talking to avatars' past lives works. But then my question for you and everyone else is, again, if you were coming back, what age would you choose for yourself to be? Prime, old, little kid? I'd love to know. Also, who is your favorite past avatar? Let me know all that in the towel section down below. Guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to leave a like on it if you haven't already, and subscribe so you don't miss any future avatar action from us. If you want to see the true secret identity of the painted lady, you can check out this video right here. But Ben, until next time, I will see you in another life, brother.